Welcome to the No Script Show, where the race for Joburg's politics is hotting up, but it's still cold as fuck. How are you this morning, Conscious Caracal?
I'm feeling fresh, man. But speaking of fresh, isn't there like a new album that recently came out that kind of excited you from the same artist that made a song along the same lines of that title?
Yes, my man, my man, Kuli Chana just dropped the hottest album in I don't know how long. It's yeah, but yeah, it's Kuli Chana is a, shall we say, very prominent rapper in sort of the Motswako culture and of music, and I really like him. Like he's my number one like guy that I absolutely love in terms of local music. Possibly because we're both Tswana. Maybe it's like that bias, but yeah, his album is quite good.
Mm. I've actually given it a listen myself. A very, very unique South African sound. Like if you hear it the first time, you don't even know who he is. You're gonna know it's from at least the southern hemisphere of South Africa. I mean, it's pretty distinct.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of his thing. That's what he aims for these days. So
Mm.
yeah.
So seeing as it's already the 7th of December, I've heard a rumor that your Christmas tree is already up.
Oh yes, as you found out from see, I'm one of those people. Like when you go by somebody's house and you're like, who is that insane, is absolutely insane maniac when it comes to decorating? I'm one of those people. So I tend to keep my tree up, get it up as early as possible, and yeah, to me Christmas is like the whole 25 days. Like we go all the way.
Okay, so now maybe the question should be then, and I've been curious about it, is like when is it acceptable to start putting up Christmas decorations in your own private capacity, and when is it okay for shops and stores to start playing Christmas music?
Okay, so this is kind of different for different people, and
I'm asking
I
you as the Christmas expert.
well, okay, I say it depends on where you are because here we don't have holidays like Thanksgiving and whatever, between us and Christmas, so I can understand why shops can sort of hype the sort of Christmas narrative towards the tail end of November. I'm okay with that. I personally wait till the 1st of December to put my lights up and everything up. But if you want to, I think, in my opinion, if you want to go at it from like 30th of November, that's fine as well, as far as I'm concerned.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, but on that note, still, man, if you really think about it, I think I saw a tweet this week about it. Someone said they're pretty annoyed with the South African Christmas scene being all snow and pine trees and stuff. And a lot of people actually had mixed reactions to it. A lot of people say yes. When I think of Christmas as a South African, I think more about like the beach and more of like a braai scene. But others said like, yeah, but this is still like it doesn't matter. Like you can make Christmas whatever you want. And are you a purist in that regard, or do you think that our South African Christmas scene in the public sphere should actually exhibit a bit more of a South African flavor than it is at the moment?
It's a good question. I'm glad that you brought that up because Louis, I think it was Louis on Twitter. One of the ZACP guys, I think it was Louis. Now I think he quoted one of my tweets about Christmas and said something similar to the same effect that it's weird that our Christmas we do this sort of, for lack of a better word, Western Christmas with the snow and all that. And having experienced an actual sort of American style Christmas with the snow and the snowman and all that, I get why it's so enjoyable in that regard. But for me, yeah, I tend to think that maybe it's time we reach a point whereby we kind of have our own thing for Christmas, you
Mm.
know?
I felt the same way about, for example, Halloween. I don't really do anything for Halloween in South Africa, but I do think there's a lot of potential there rather than just carbon copy it to here. rather do something else there. For example, if the rainy season starts up in Gauteng around the same time, or spring starts, so you can pretty much then at the end of October have like a seasonal festival with a South African theme, but on the same day as Halloween. I personally don't like the idea of carbon copying like a event or a holiday from a different country just because you saw it in media or on film.
Yeah.
I much rather like the idea of taking something and making it your own, and that's why I think in South Africa there's a lot more potential to actually make Christmas a lot more South African in the way that we advertise it, in the way that we portray it, in the way that we decorate our homes. I think there's a lot of room for improvement and a lot of potential for creativity.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that one. I mean, well, we're certainly not lacking in creativity. If any of you have ever been down Lawley Street in Pretoria, you'll see that there's quite a bit of creativity there. But it would be cool if I one day went down Lawley Street and I saw a very sort of South African flavor to the decoration. Speaking of which, what did you think of the tour down Lawley Street?
Okay, so maybe just for context, last night me and Odin and some friends and my girlfriend went on a tour through Lawley Street. And this is, well, firstly, maybe you should give a little introduction on what that actually is, and then I can tell you about the experience.
Yeah, sure. So Lawley Street is pretty much a Pretoria institution around Christmas time. It's right up there with things like Park Acoustics. Every year around Christmas, Lawley Street is an area in Waterkloof where it's incredibly affluent. A lot of very rich locals and a lot of equally, if not more rich, sort of embassies and internationals staying there and all that stuff. So way back in the day, I don't know who, but somebody on that street decided to really, really do it up for Christmas. And when one super rich dude starts flexing,
And they
the
started
rest,
a clout war.
pretty much, it's a cloud war. And then everyone just starts flexing on everyone else. And so now we have this yearly tradition where, I mean, you go there and, I mean, you as was with me, you go there and you see cars. There's traffic on that street, but it's not going anywhere. It's just people slowly touring, watching people's decorations of their houses.
Right. So my experience of it was basically that there's nothing that really compares to it in the Cape. So I don't really have any frame of reference in terms of contrasting it with something. But for me, it was a nice experience. For me, it was still a very unique thing to see. Coming from a small town, I think the closest thing we had to that was like the lights going up on the street lamps.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the one thing that did strike me a bit more than the decorations was just the very high walls and the fucking fortresses that the people live in there. Like, a lot of those walls went full Jericho.
Bro, those walls are like... Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's not exaggerating, guys, when he says the walls are like fortress. Like, those walls are like 30 meters high. It's ridiculous. And many of those houses have like private, like mini guardhouse attachments. It's crazy.
So you have to have a lot of physical wealth in your house if you really need to defend it like that, and if you're able to afford it.
Well, that, and as I mentioned, some of those people there have probably screwed over a lot of people who would go to great lengths to see justice brought about, or alternatively, some of the people who live there have acquired their wealth in not totally scrupulous means, and thus have a lot of enemies in their chosen vocation of non sort of traditional legal means.
And then there's this recent guy that moved in there, just the Bitcoin guy, the weird guy.
Can you imagine that? It's like everyone's there as like crime
hardened
kingpins,
criminals and like fucking international smugglers and stuff, and then there's just the Bitcoin nerd that's like 21 years old.
This is Bitcoin, dude. That would be insane. That's yeah. Oh wow. So yeah, no. Last night was actually quite fun. I needed that prize. So I have to thank you for coming through.
Yeah, man. But another weather anomaly that's really been striking for me is that for the past almost 4 or 5 days, it's been raining non-stop in Pretoria.
Dude, it's basically winter again. It's so weird, and although I will say for my part, I do you guys missed this, but well, obviously you missed it. You're listening to this, but I have a little tradition every December whereby I sort of Santa it up. I dress up a lot in the Santa suit and Santa Claus, and I actually wear the hat and sometimes the jacket, even when I'm driving to work in the office and all that stuff. And it's extremely cozy, which is bad normally, but right now it's actually pretty useful considering how cold it is.
All right. Well, the whole thing comes from a region that is constantly cold and snowing in winter. So, I mean, it just makes sense that Santa wears like pretty practical clothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to your whole thing about, we need to sort of localize our holidays.
Right. I think Santa Claus in South Africa should rather be wearing a two-tone.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Dude, can you imagine that? Like, like,
And some pluckies, dude.
yeah, kortbroek and pluckies and like just like a two-tone jacket. Oh, that'd be amazing. I would pay to watch that. Like, I would
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
See, but that's the thing. That reaction shows how much potential there is if you make something your own. How much more like enjoyable and relatable a holiday or something can be. So I think maybe there should be a movement sometime in the future where we start South Africanizing the Christmas aesthetic.
Yeah.
In regards to, for example, what we wear or like a Christmas tree and like stuff like that. The things that are pretty much what's the word, like disconnected from the Christian side of it, more of like just the aesthetic side, just like the festive side of it, the
Yeah.
things that are malleable.
Yeah, definitely. No, I would love that. I mean, can you imagine like Santa Claus coming down the street in like instead of a sleigh, like a Ford Cortina or like his Isuzu decked
Well,
out Isuzu.
he has an ox wagon, dude.
Oh yes, that'd be amazing. Yeah, pimped out Oxwagon, like instead of like Rudolph a red-nosed reindeer, just like
The
random.
red-nosed kudu, dude.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yes, I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Or just a red-nosed springbok.
Yes, yes. You see, we're already rolling it. Like we're already spitballing the localization. So yeah, I think that's definitely a thing that can work.
Something that I did remember from last night is the fact that you are an excellent salesman for Santa's Warehouse. A welcome sponsor maybe for the
Well-
No Script Show if they're listening.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because they are today's sponsor of the day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's the Christmas season and you're sitting there, your house looks like trash. I'm sorry, it just does because it's missing something. It's missing holiday cheer. And there's only one place in Pretoria where you can get all the holiday cheer you need. If it's anything, and I do mean anything to do with Christmas, you will find it at Santa's Warehouse. Literally, they have spray on snow. Literally, they have spray on snow and lights and lampposts and everything you could possibly need. I personally shop at nowhere but Santa's Warehouse for my Christmas needs. Santa's Warehouse, stop in today.
Yeah, man. Nah, you should definitely let those guys know that you're spreading the good word.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that paycheck comes in because,
Now, I didn't listen to last week's episode, but did you guys discuss the Elon Musk Cybertruck?
we
Not
did
yet.
not. We did
Oh,
not,
not yet.
but we should. We should
Seeing as this is a tech podcast.
semi-tech podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple of tech things I want to discuss with you, but yeah, let's get into Cybertruck. What are your thoughts on Cybertruck?
I think it's fucking ugly, dude. I don't like it. Like, it's honestly just like this weird angled Lego brick Isuzu thing. But it looks like it looks like if you took like a Toyota Hilux, but you made it in the Blade Runner universe. That's like it's the type of vehicle that
Okay.
you get. But the most hilarious thing from the whole revelation or like the presentation of the vehicle was when they did the strength test for the windows, and Elon Musk tells his assistant like you can
Yeah.
throw this steel ball as hard as you can at the window, and he does it, and the window shatters, but the ball's window through. And then he's like, oh, maybe you just did it too hard. And then he's like, can I do it with the other window? He's like, yeah, sure, do it with the other window. And he throws it a little softer, and that window shatters as well. And you can hear Elon Musk very loudly say over the microphone, "Holy fucking shit!"
Somebody's getting fired. Okay, so here's what I think about Cybertruck, right?
Sounds like a
I,
movie.
it does. Cybertruck. In a world where trucks are no longer their own masters, Cybertruck fights to save them all. Anyway, okay, so my thing with Cybertruck is I initially did not like it, but there is one version of it I've seen that I actually like, and that's it painted in the scheme of the Warthog from Halo, the gaming franchise. I was like, you know what? If you paint it like that and put a machine gun on the back, I'm down for that. Sign me up for a Cybertruck, but only in that context. Otherwise, no, I'm off it. And it's not because of my long-standing and bitter rivalry with my evil counterpart Elon Musk. It's just because the truck sucks.
Well, talking about rivalries, another rivalry that's still burning strong on social media is yours with the Goose, man.
Oh yes, the Goose. And I have it on good authority that he occasionally listens to the show. So if he does listen, well, Run, today's the day. This weekend's the weekend. We haven't lost anything to the Big Six in the whole sort of season. So I think I'm feeling good about going up against City. And yeah, him and his shit club and shit taste in clubs can just go get fucked. I hate him. I hate his stupid ass face. And when I see him next time, I'm smacking the shit out of him. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, man. Nah, dude. Pochettino was one of the managers I really highly rated in the Premier League. I think he's going to still go places. Very soon, he's going to be appointed at a very big club somewhere abroad. I can tell you that right now. He's not going to struggle to find a new club. But I can't really diagnose what went wrong there. But something horribly just went off the rails at Tottenham. But it
Yeah.
seems to me like a lot of key players just didn't perform. Like, for example, Eriksen, after he was linked with, I think, Real Madrid, he just didn't perform at all. I think he had one assist this entire season, where last season he had like 18 or 15. So I think a lot of players, and I think this is actually a problem in modern football, is that we've gotten to this point where players are almost bigger than their clubs to an extent.
Oh
They
yeah.
have too much power. They can just stop playing or stop performing because they've been linked with a bigger club and they want to force through a move. And it's definitely something that I don't think should be the way of things. I think the players should always be smaller than their club or their manager. I think the manager should always have perfect authority over his team. There shouldn't be a player that dictates the team.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing
But
is,
I mean, you've seen this at Man United with Paul
Yeah.
Pogba as well.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go. Like, myself being a United supporter, I know that whole concept of the player being bigger than the club all too fucking well. Like, all too well. And I tend to agree with you that, like, it needs a fundamental change that would bring about a remedy to this, because I
Right.
don't think it's a good thing when players can pretty much hold their own club
Yeah.
hostage.
And they can just go on strike, basically. I think I remember correctly when Mourinho was at Chelsea. His last season there, he just lost the players. And as soon as he lost the dressing room, the players just stopped performing, all of them.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
his team just completely collapsed. And it was pretty much a very obvious player strike, almost forcing the manager out. And I don't know how you remedy it, but it's definitely, if I had to point to something that really put Tottenham on the road that they are now. I mean, they have a good squad. They're one of the best squads in the league. So it can't be a quality question. It's rather that I think Pochettino lost some of the players, and that in the end cost him his job.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much a very succinct way of wrapping up what actually happened there with that whole
Yeah.
saga. Yeah. So anyway, I have a slight hangover headache, but it is only made worse by going to the gun range today. Uh, so, if for anyone listening, I'd like to point out that if you are going to the gun range the next morning, do not have Jägermeister shots at Lucky Rodrigo the night before, because it will make the shooting experience somewhat unpleasant. Yeah,
Yeah, man. But at least you pulled through, dude.
I did pull through, and I had a great time with my weapon of choice. I my concealed carry is a Smith & Wesson 2.0 M&P, and it's a beautiful, beautiful gun to shoot.
Does South Africa have any gun-themed podcasts? I'm not aware of any.
I don't think they are any. Maybe we can like spin up a spin-off just about guns.
If you're listening and you are pretty knowledgeable about guns, maybe there's a gap in the market you should consider.
Yeah, and I'd love to go on your podcast then. I think we've kind of, and I know you've touched on this before. We've reached a point in South African podcasts where there's just so much stuff out there now,
Yeah,
and like
the market's getting pretty saturated. And I think that's something else that happened is that YouTube completely changed their algorithm. So I did an experiment the other day. I took my second latest video, the one about white privilege, and because it has a pretty specific title, and I copy and pasted that title into the search bar just to check where the algorithm spits it out, and it was the 20th result. Even though I searched the very long and specific title, and one of my other fans in America searched it as well, and it was number 32 for him in search results. And all the other results that were before it weren't like ideological results. It weren't a bunch of leftists. It was a bunch of corporate stuff. It was like MSNBC and CNN and like fucking Fox News even. And these are priority creators. That's the group that they fall into. So
right.
It's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I don't think the bias at YouTube is largely ideological. I think it's largely corporate. I think, and you can really see that if you look at, for example, the fact that Fox News is a priority creator on the site.
I hadn't considered it that way, but yeah, maybe you're right.
No, man, it's all about the money, dude. And if you look at, for example, like my experiment with the algorithm, if you search a news story, all the first results are like these like mainstream news outlets. Even in South African news outlets like News 24 get priority status from what I've seen. And then you also, in terms of entertainment, the first thing you get are like actors and late night comedy hosts and stuff like that. Like, for example, Stephen Colbert and John Oliver and The Rock and Will Smith, prominent YouTuber Will Smith.
Prominent YouTuber. Will Smith is a YouTuber now. I love that. Like, yeah. And I mean, this goes back to sort of themes that we've explored, and lots of people have explored about big tech and technocracy and who gets to be the kingmakers of what gets put out, and especially with you know, sort of podcasts and social media, and also with like elections. You know, there is definitely an issue there in terms
But
of...
I'm definitely going to go full pessimist on this one. I think if you wanted to establish yourself as a YouTuber, like especially a politics or news YouTuber, you should have done it already. I think that window is closed now, for two reasons. First reason, like we discussed earlier, the market has been completely saturated by now, not even just in South Africa, across the world, or specifically the Western world. Just so much content being uploaded is insane.
Yeah, I don't have time to watch or listen to all my podcasts.
And then secondly, I think also the pro-corporate algorithm is just destroying channels. Like, for example, Styx Hexenhammer, who's branching out to BitChute now, because he's making BitChute exclusive episodes now, because of the very fact that he has stopped on 394,000 subscribers. He's been stuck there for like a few months now. And there was a time when he was growing at like 5,000 subscribers a month at least. But you can see exactly what I'm talking about if you look at the type of content that he makes. So he makes at least 3 or 4 videos a day reacting to breaking news. And if you search those breaking news stories, you're only going to get like 20 or 30 priority creators first before you start getting content creators. And that still doesn't mean that Styx or whatever, or your video is going to be the first of the regular content creators. So it's going to be 20 corporate content, priority content creators first showing up, and then it's going to be a mad scramble for whoever is like gets the second page of YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's the case, then YouTube has essentially created it's set off a chain reaction that will lead to the heat death of the YouTube universe, as it were.
Yeah, man. That's the big question. Is a lot of people reference, for example, Yahoo being this big prominent force on the internet and then just fading away, or MySpace, for example. But yo, man, YouTube is, I really don't want to say too big to fail, but yo, man, it's fucking big. YouTube is massive. YouTube is the premier video streaming and watching platform on the internet by light years.
I miss MySpace, man. I miss MySpace. Back when having black and white photographs was cool, it made you arty and edgy, and then you had to fight over who was in your top 8 friends list.
Wait, let's stay on that topic, dude. The artsy, because you used it as a Wotanism a while back. What is this phenomenon of black and white profile pictures that we're seeing?
I don't know what it is, and I don't know who you are, but if any of you still have black and white photographs as your Avi on Twitter, stop. You're not artsy, you're not cool, you're not edgy, you're not misunderstood, you're just a jackass who's using a photo medium that went out of use ages ago. Our great-grandparents would have loved to have color photos. Stop disrespecting their names, you douchebag. Okay, it was some dude, I believe it was Louis, who shout out to my man Louis, by the way, who said, these podcasts are my favorite podcasts. And then some dude, what's his name?
That David Duchovny looking ass.
Yeah, some dude. He's got like a biochem. I think it's like molecular
I'm seeing his
biology.
profile picture in my mind's eye, but I can't remember his name.
He's got the molecule for some carbon or something as his Twitter hat. Yeah, we get it. You're smart, bro. So yeah, he honestly looks like David Duchovny, but like the busted ass version.
He sits at the dinner table and he asks you to pass like the fucking sodium chloride.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, he's that guy. He's that type of nigga. Okay? I mean, honestly, the dude legitimately somehow looks like a weird mix of he looks like a busted ass Hank Moody or David Duchovny. He honestly, like if you took the physical manifestation of the creepy guys that hang out outside of their high school for just a little bit too long, it would be this guy. I don't know how, but they've distilled the essence of the friend zone into one man and made him alive. So no. And anyway, so Louis gets into it with this guy, and he's just like riffing. He's like, he says something
on the No Script Show.
Yeah, for no reason. This clown ass nigga is dunking on our show. I'm like, he's like, oh, good shows for right wingers. Okay, someone like Wogan is actually pretty far to the left.
So dunking on Elon Musk is right wing now.
Yeah, what did he list? He also listed Podlatik, I think, as well. Yeah. Our show, North South podcast, a bunch of it. And he's like, these are good shows for right wingers. I think the vast majority of those of people in those shows are actually quite varied in their socio-political standing, and even those of us who are
I wouldn't say that if you take that group of people that it really leans anyway. I think the spectrum is a bit too diverse there.
No, I mean, of the people in that group, of all those podcasts, you could have somebody like me who leans to right, but I'm not even a far right winger, not in the actual sense. I just mildly like small government and pro-gun and I'm pro-life. Right. I don't understand.
I used it earlier, but what exactly is a Wotanism?
It's actually, I didn't actually coin that word. I saw somebody on Twitter say that word. Apparently,
you should add it to Urban Dictionary.
Oh yeah, we have to add that to Urban Dictionary. Apparently, people have been seeing it, because I use Twitter just to catch up on news a little bit, and also just to riff around and make little jokes. And apparently, my specific style of dunking on people or making jokes is rather entertaining. And somebody said at one point something to the effect of top tier Wotanism there. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna run with it, and that's what it's become now.
Yeah, man, but I've started using it as well, unironically. I think it's a nice thing to have. Like you said earlier, everyone has their style. Everyone has something that makes them unique. If you don't have that, if the only thing that makes your profile unique is your inkwell filter profile picture,
inkwell filter.
then there's a lot very special about you, man.
Bruh. Oh my gosh, that dude is just, I can't. He, like, honestly, people, you guys have to find Louis. If you hear this, please like pull up that tweet again so people can see it. And that's not me saying, guys, go harass this guy. Just to be clear, but honestly, like he looks so creepy and artsy. He's like, he looks like the kind of guy that, you know, dates you and dates like a girl, gets married, and then says my wife's son instead of my son. You know, he's just.
So is there going to be a Christmas special for the No Scripture?
There will be. We are planning various things. Also, I'm as you know, I'm sort of trying to do like a homecoming tour whereby we, you know, have various guests on and features, sort of to like do a summary of all the people we've had on the show, or all the people we've been on other people's shows with through the years, just as like a No Script and Friends tour.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, I think that's an excellent idea. What other tech? You said you had other tech topics that we need to discuss.
Oh yeah, something I've been meaning to discuss with you for a while is the concept of Clarke tech.
Right. Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Clarke tech is a term coined by one of my favorite scientists, as Conscious Caracal already knows who I'm gonna say. It's Isaac Arthur. And he coined the term when referring to a brand.
Hey, you didn't lead in Isaac Arthur with my man before it though. That's very
true.
odd.
My man, Isaac Arthur. Clarke tech is basically, you know, it's his term. He coined that term when referring to a brand of technology or a level of technology that is referred to by the often paraphrased Arthur C. Clarke quote, which said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And I kind of agree with that quote still, but don't, because I think we've reached a point in our advancement where anything I see, I'm going to assume I don't believe in magic anymore. Like anything I see, I'll always just assume it's just some sort of advanced technology I don't understand.
Right. If, for example, some advanced race of aliens were able to land on Earth and you saw their ship and you saw them, the first rationalization you would make is, damn, these aliens are very technologically advanced. Not, oh man, this is like a bunch of wizards from a different dimension using magic.
Exactly. We've become so technological that nobody really believes in magic anymore because, as you said, it's so.
But if you take that scenario and you just play it out 300 years ago, the reaction would be quite the opposite. People would immediately go to, wow, this is magic. These are some wizards, dog.
Exactly. And that came with the change of us becoming so technological.
And you wouldn't even need. I mean, my example was like advanced alien race, but if you go back 500 years, you can show those people a fucking slinky and they'd lose their minds.
Oh yeah. That level of metallurgy, they'd be like, my God, he's a wizard. Well, they'll probably kill you as a witch, but you know they'll seize it for themselves and try reverse engineer this technology. And so, you know. A good example to help people understand what Clarke tech really is, you know, how advanced it would get, would be, for example, let's say you have a box, and when you press the button on this box, you can delete an event from history occurring, as in not traveling back in time, not you know trying to rewrite people's memories, but you can literally delete that event from occurring in continuity from the universe, or maybe a fun little dial on your wall where you can change the gravitational the strength of gravity, which, by the way, ladies and gents, is one of the fundamental forces of all the fundamental forces. Gravity, pound per pound, is actually the weakest of the fundamental forces, although it affects everything. That is to say, anything that has mass has gravity, and my own gravity actually pretty much extends out infinitely through the whole universe. The only difference is it gets to a point where it's so infinitely close to zero that it doesn't matter. But in case you didn't know, your gravity affects absolutely everything.
So Clarke tech would be basically a technological equivalent of having the Infinity Gauntlet, which is magic.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. And I think I've always, for me, Clarke Tech isn't. It's not so much the technical aspect of Clarke Tech that fascinates me. What fascinates me is I wonder what sort of civilization would have such technology. Like, what would be the societal effects once you achieve Clarke Tech?
Right. Do you destroy yourself? I think there's a very big possibility when, I mean, you're going to be so fucking powerful that you can pretty much with one small mistake, one drunken bender, and your entire civilization is over, dog.
Pretty much. But I like to think that if you've built up that level of Clarke Tech, you also have built in
Checks and balances and like countermeasures, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much checks and balances and countermeasures.
Yeah.
But
that would make sense.
But speaking of alien landings, another thing that my man Isaac Arthur pointed out pretty well is that once a civilization reaches a certain level of advancement, so let's say Kardashev type 2 civilization, they're capable of dedicating enough resources to anything that it is almost inconceivable that they wouldn't know everything and anything about us. That is to say, for them, they have so many resources that they can absolutely dedicate entire universities full of researchers doing anthropology and studying us, so that when they land, they could pretty much land in and give us a proposal that we can't refuse. Like, if he pointed out that they would know us so well that they know us better than we know ourselves, so they would be smart enough. Yeah, I mean, whatever proposal they give us, we would jump at it. So whether it's join the galactic sort of community or we'd like to eat you, please, they would have the resources to phrase it to us in such a way that we jump at the opportunity to be eaten alive if they so chose to make that proposition. So, yeah.
I'm just thinking like we'd fall for anything, so they could tell us like knock knock, and we're like, who's there? And like, Joe.
Yeah.
And we couldn't be able to resist.
Oh, that meme, that Joe meme. So expand on that Joe meme for a second.
So I don't know where it started, but it's basically the joke that you told in like second grade or first grade and annihilated your mates. Like, for example, you'd say, did Joe give you the homework yesterday? And like, who's Joe? And they're like, Joe Mama. And I'm just imagining these aliens pulling that on us and them being so advanced they can actually trick us, even the smartest man on Earth, into a Joe Mama.
Joe Mama civilization. And then be like, all right, we out now. Peace. And fly off. Like,
all right, I'm gonna head out. They just do this experiment. They're traveling the universe to find an alien race that's smart enough to escape their Joe Mama, like, 4D chess trick.
4D chess. All right, I'm gonna head out. I love that meme, by the way. That SpongeBob meme. I'm gonna head out. I love it. That's another thing which I'm gonna try bring back now. We are going to post more to YouTube and have meme reviews again.
I can create a meme on air. So basically what happens is the aliens come here, and then once they realize humanity is one big fucking disappointment, they're just like, I'm gonna head out.
I'm gonna head out. Oh man, dude, that'd be amazing. You guys aren't any fun. Yeah. Because again,
go back to throwing sticks at each other and putting people in jail for sounds that you make.
Right. I forgot about that. People now get put in jail for saying things and doing things.
But one of my favorite jokes is always I can't remember who said it. Some prominent like science guy or philosopher, or anyway, someone said that. But like recently, we as a species, or as the human race, tries to contact alien civilizations, but we can't even get along amongst each other, people of our own species. So why are we playing on hard if we lose on easy?
I guess the counter argument to that is we can walk and chew gum at the same time. You know, we didn't need to achieve utopia before we started space programs. So yeah.
Something that would be very interesting, though, if I could run a simulation, something I would do is actually to create an alien threat to humanity and to see, like, for example, let's take the Cold War. Mm-hmm. You got the right and the left pretty much joining each other during the Cold War in America to fight the Red Menace.
Sort of like in Watchmen.
Yeah, even
we
a
were
lot of,
watching.
there was a lot more social cohesion in America during the Cold War than there is now. And you also get it just in the wake of 9/11 and during the Iraq War. You have this immense unity and like right and left, Democrat and Republican come together to fight like a bigger, larger foe. And as soon as that foe disappears, then suddenly they start fighting amongst each other again, seeing as they always need an enemy. It always goes back to that old wisdom about if you establish an army and you don't give it an external foe, it will start looking for a foe internally to fight. Because when you start, if you create a force that is there to destroy something, or a force that is created to oppose something, like for example you create a culture in your country to oppose Russia, or an anti-American culture in your country,
Yeah.
as soon as that opponent or that thing that you direct your hate towards is gone, that force that you created is going to start looking for another target. And otherwise, if you don't get rid of it, it's just going to start looking for fights internally. And I think that's what we're seeing in America today. In post-Cold War America, is pretty much there isn't that external foe uniting them anymore. But I've gone completely off track. I started talking about running a simulation to see if humanity actually would quasi unite in the face of like an extraterrestrial threat.
Extraterrestrial threat. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think that whole thing is indicative of the nature of humanity itself. We always need something to fight or overcome,
Right, and you always need a tribe.
Yeah. So, yeah, I tend to think we would have some sort of unified moment, as it were, because literally we're fighting for our survival. But the other thing for me, and this is where I bring the boring science into it, is that for me, alien invasion to destroy us or enslave us or anything us is just for malicious intent of any kind seems really quite unlikely to me, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so the probability that it's just us and some other race in the universe is pretty slim. If there's us, then there's probably quite a few other races. And if there's a race that's become so advanced that interstellar travel, awesome, super easy, there's probably a couple of other races that have become that advanced. And the thing with that is, in addition to the fact that crossing the universe, we'd at least sort of see them coming, not that we'd be able to build up defenses. Other people would see them doing this. Other people would see them coming along and wiping us out, or taking all our resources, or enslaving us, or whatever. And they would witness this, and they'd be like, "Oh, okay, these guys are douchebags. We should be wary," and everybody else would be wary of their actions. Right. So I don't understand alien. Nobody understands alien psychology, but just on pure logical sort of gambit, there, I would say it's not worthwhile invading. Even for resources, the universe is so resource rich. There are giant asteroids out there that have so
Made
much
of gold.
Made of fucking gold. There are planets that are made of diamond. That's made of so much diamond it would. There
are planets with oceans of fucking petroleum.
Yeah. So the universe is so resource rich. It seems if somebody says they're coming here for resources, I'm going to need a reason why they can't just go somewhere closer for those resources. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm going to be a bit pessimistic again and answer my own question in regards to whether humanity would unite in the face of like an alien threat. I think you only have to look at history in terms of, well, firstly, let's to look at the quote by, I think it's Stephen Hawking, that said, you should be very cautious about, humanity should be very cautious about sending messages into deep space, because the last time a foreign force discovered a new country, like for example the British discovered Australia, it didn't turn out so well for the locals. And I think that same sentiment is going to happen in terms of if we are under an extraterrestrial threat. I think we're not going to be able to unite, even quasi-unite as a species. I think we're just going to keep on fighting our little battles, and at the same time try and like repel this.
Oh, you think like
in the same fashion that, for example, the Native American tribes didn't really all unite, or all the African tribes didn't really unite, or basically every story of colonization ever the natives never really formed like one unified force. They kind of still fought amongst each other, but there was like always one big empire or one big force that kind of tried to resist whatever other force was taking them over. But it was never like a united front, from what I know about history.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Speaking of the Americas, I hate to bring this up, but let's just glance over Impeachment Gate for a second. And because so just to be clear, the reason I sound so tired is because I am actually tired of talking about this. I just wanna glance over it because we all know what's going to happen. Okay, I'm so tired of the it's for the 100th millionth time. The Democrats are going to vote to impeach Trump. Then it's going to go to the Senate. Not one Republican will vote against Trump. Even the never Trumpers, even the guys that despise him, the establishment.
It's going to be a Bill Clinton scenario where after Bill Clinton was impeached, his popularity actually surged.
Exactly. That's it. Not one Republican will vote against Trump. I guarantee you, because they know that they need him. They know they need him as their
this is pretty much as I see it, their last ditch effort, seeing as their front runner is visibly demented. Joe, we care about facts we care about the truth over facts, Biden. Shit, dude, he's been really losing it the past few months. Like rambling about him taking on gangsters and talking about him and Obama doing something in the 1970s. He's genuinely, and I'm sorry, I really don't want to make a joke about it because it's really a serious matter. But he's showing, and I'm being serious, he's showing symptoms of like early onset dementia. It's really sad.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so I will have one caveat though. People were making a big deal about him like nipping his wife's finger. I thought
that's the least of like things.
Yeah,
I'm more worried about him talking about. I'm more worried about him taking on a gangster gang leader named Corn Pop.
Corn Pop with his razor. Like him nipping his wife's finger, that's a playful thing. Couples touch and nip each other all the time. You guys are worried about nothing there. But him talking about Corn Pop and all that shit, I'm like, guys.
Or saying things like, poor kids are just as smart as white
kids. like, whoa.
This is like off the wall insane, dude. Like this is not just like minor gaffes. This is serious problems in terms of what he's saying. But yeah, I think that's where, and this is how I get back to impeachments. I think this is just their last ditch effort, man. Like they realize they're absolutely screwed with. But I mean, their candidates are pretty much the only three viable candidates left. I mean, Kamala Harris has dropped out.
Because apparently the United, I hate that. By the way, sorry, I just have to jump in there. The people like she dropped out because of racism. Like, did Barack Obama not exist for like 8 years? Did he not exist? Is Cory Booker not still in? Is Tulsi Gabbard technically not still in? Is Andrew Yang not in?
Let me give you a summary of the top three viable candidates in terms of the polls that they have. They have pretty much Joe, we care about the facts, or we care about the truth over facts, Biden. Then you have Elizabeth fucking Pocahontas Warren. And in third place you have Bernie. Actually, breadlines are a good thing, Sanders.
Bernie Sanders? Of course, I love social.
If you think about it, breadlines, they're a good thing.
I love socialism. Also, I would like some pudding. Yes, what time of day is it? I am Bernie Sanders. So it's just... also, Bloomberg jumped in the race. So
right. I don't know enough about him, dude. I really, unfortunately, can't really give you a take on it. I've not really been watching that.
De Blasio dropped out and Bloomberg jumped in. So New York now has two former mayors that were in the running. Also, what's his name from Wyoming is still in, I think. The governor from Wyoming. Wyoming, by the way, a state that has that is perfectly square. By the way, seriously, look it up on Google Maps. Just go to Google Maps now, guys. Type in Wyoming. It's a perfectly square state. That's why people think it doesn't exist. Nobody's ever met anyone from Wyoming, apparently, but they have a governor, and he's in the race with Democrats. Michael Bloomberg. Oh, by the way, he's already got a Trump nickname. It's Mini Mike Bloomberg. There's one thing that man is good at is
Trumpisms.
it's Trumpisms. Bloomberg, he is actually a self-made billionaire. And the funny thing for me about it is people like Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg are actual self-made billionaires, and their party seems to hate billionaires. Like they're hating on billionaires, and I'm like, by the way,
Bloomberg is actually much more more rich than Trump, though. Like he is genuinely like a super billionaire.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing to me. Like I'm like
He can outspend Trump in a what
easily. I'm like, I'm old enough to remember when 6 months ago y'all were like billionaires shouldn't exist. Billionaires are a bad thing.
Let's make a billionaire president.
and now people on the left are like, haha, our billionaire is richer than your billionaire. I'm like, didn't you just say that this is bad?
This whole Bloomberg thing, now I think about it, creates a really serious dilemma for the Democrats. Okay, it's not going to happen. He's not going to, maybe someone's going to take this clip in a year and say, look at all these predictions that were wrong, and he actually wins. But yeah. I can't see him winning the Democratic nominee, but let's say he does get the nomination. He's going to put the Democrats in a really, really bad situation, because now you're going to have the third, sometimes second in the polls, Bernie Sanders, who is not going to be able to endorse him. He is not going to be able, if he's just going to have to stay quiet, or if he endorses him, he's going to throw away his legacy amongst his fans forever.
Or he could do the mental gymnastics required to somehow say this billionaire is okay. I don't know. But yeah, I guess if somehow he gets the nomination, they're screwed, because now it's like...
I just like the fact that the four top Democrat candidates at the moment are incredibly white and incredibly fucking... waspy.
Yeah, waspy, yes. Yeah. No, I don't think he... Yeah, I don't think he'll get the nomination either. But he also gets shot down because he initiated the stop and frisk policies in New York City. And for those of you who don't know, that was when police in New York would stop and frisk young black men and Latino men from bad neighborhoods to look for things.
Kamala Harris was listening to Tupac before he even brought out, before he even was a thing.
See, that's the thing, okay? This is why people like Kamala Harris and even Elizabeth Warren are dropping out, because even their own side can see how intensely non-genuine they are. Yeah. They're really off-putting. And again, this isn't a slight at them because they are women or women of color. There's plenty of women in the Democratic running that are not off-putting. Tulsi Gabbard is not off-putting. Amy Klobuchar, a little weird, but not off-putting. Okay, so it's not about them being women, it's about them being intensely off-putting human beings. And
according to Hillary Clinton, Tulsi is a Russian asset, so...
Tulsi Gabbard is like the most underrated candidate in my... Like, I actually love her foreign policy, her wanting to pull out of ceaseless wars. I'm not a fan of her economics, and I'm not a fan of how cool she is with seriously late with abortion. But honestly, her foreign policy, any day, all day. Like they need to pull out of all of those wars, because newsflash, there was an empire years ago, much like the current American empire, that imploded because it had uncontrolled immigration and it had tons of foreign wars, and it was called Rome. It was called Rome. The reason Rome fell is not because of the barbarians at the gates, guys. It's because they had uncontrolled immigration, huge government spending, endless fucking foreign wars, and it
Shut up, xenophobe.
Yes. So let's get to talking about that xenophobia and actually, protecting your borders. What's your take on that?
Well, my take is that I think any country should be given the right to control to their own, according to their own judgment, how much they reckon their immigration intake should be. I don't think a country should, if I have to prescribe in terms of what's the best outcome, I don't think a country should completely close the tap in terms of how many people come in. But at the same time, I do think, especially third world countries like South Africa, if you want to get the most out of your immigration towards your country, then you need to at least make sure that the people coming to your country are highly educated and are in fields that are actually in demand in your country.
Exactly.
You can't, and this is where I feel very strongly, you can't import cheap labor into a country that has a 33% unemployment rate. That is
Oh yeah.
absolute suicide.
Oh yeah.
And yours, man? Seeing
My
as I've already pointed out that you're a xenophobe, but
yeah.
please prove my point even more.
I am a very, 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 very strong border hawk. That's probably why, again, I've mentioned this before, why I'm not actually a libertarian. But honestly, I don't, I said this on a previous episode, I'm not in favor of mass immigration. And what I really hate, what I absolutely hate, is how many people in the mainstream media and in the alt media, quote unquote, podcasts and YouTube and all that, will absolutely slander anyone and everyone who publicly questions our need for borders. You once just complain about illegal immigration. I promise you there will be 500 tweets about how you're a xenophobe, and some fucking idiot is going to be writing news articles about how you're xenophobe. No, guys, I just want to know who's coming in, and I just want to control the tap.
And as I understand your stance, you're also not like a 100% against immigration in terms
No,
of
I'm
your
not.
stance.
Exactly.
I mean, if those immigrants can add to my society in terms of them actually starting businesses, investing in the country, doing so, actually being able to prove to me that they will be a benefit to whatever community takes them in, I think they're more than welcome. And also another very important thing, but also just my subjective opinion, I can't really say this is the objective standard for every country, but I do think my idea of a good immigrant is one that does assimilate to the reigning culture or the culture of his community.
Oh yeah.
For example, the immigrant that goes to America that actually adopts American values and
there will be a Braille test. There will be a Braille test for your
exactly.
citizenship.
And,
No, I agree.
And for example, I do think that is, in the end, where a lot of animosity towards immigrants comes from, not only in South Africa, but in a lot of countries, is the fact that, and this is natural, I don't blame immigrants for doing it. I understand exactly why a lot of immigrant communities do it, but they do create an isolated community, and they start only interacting with each other. And like I said, for very obvious reasons. I mean, you're in a strange country, you don't necessarily speak the language, you feel more comfortable amongst your own people. A lot of it makes perfect sense. But I think this type of isolating that we see, where immigrants actually create communities of their own and don't really assimilate completely to their host country, actually contributes a lot to the animosity. And I think it's a factor that's not that much, is not that often discussed. A lot of people only discuss the jobs motive, like, oh, they're coming to take our jobs. But I do think it goes a bit deeper than that. I do think a lot of it comes from the fact that me, for example, I can pretty much see, well, not every time, but I have a pretty good eye for if someone grew up in South Africa, or if someone grew up in another country and moved here, or grew up in South Africa but within an immigrant community. You can see a distinct difference. And I think that definitely contributes to a lot of what we're seeing here today. Not that I'm arguing that the genuine xenophobia that we've seen in South Africa is justified, but I think the very important thing is that we look at it in a multifaceted way rather than the fallacy of the single cause.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as they say, if you import 1 million of people from wherever and they all fill up this area, that area is not that its original place anymore. It's changed effectively.
What's the population of Botswana? 4 million.
That is 4 million, roughly, including.
Yeah.
It's Jamie. Pull that up. Let me just Google it real quick. Of what? Okay, so current estimates. Population is 2.2 million.
Yo, much smaller than I thought. So let's say, and I think this is actually where we can take this topic. Let's say you import, and I think everyone is pretty much aware that Botswana is a very culturally homogenous country. Let's say you import 1 million Zulus tomorrow to Botswana. Honest question, do you think the politics in Botswana will stay the same?
I mean, yeah, absolutely not. And this is the thing, and but then
just to finish that point, a racial identitarian, whether they be on the right or the left, would not agree that a million Zulus would have an effect on Botswana's culture, as far as I understand what they're saying, seeing as their Zulus and Tswanas are both black.
Yeah, let me unpack that. Obviously not. It's not going to stay the same, the politics. And yeah, the racial identitarians. I like that term, because racial identitarianism has now become a thing on the left and the right. The only difference is that one side says it's all about race and the other side says race isn't a thing. It doesn't matter. We're all one giant grey goo. Like, no.
But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying is I'm much more of a cultural identitarian myself. I see the world in terms of different cultures, and I see the impact of culture on politics. And well,
Absolutely.
language and culture goes so hand in hand that I can pretty much say that you don't have to say that another factor of it is linguistic, because pretty much language and culture are so much overlap there.
Of course.
And I think if you want to, and we've had this conversation so many times, if you want to understand South African politics, and if you want to make accurate predictions in terms of where the country is heading and what political parties will succeed and which will fail, you're going to have to answer the question about culture, and in terms of how a person's culture affects his voting behavior, rather than thinking that every South African is just a single atom, a blank slate, if you will, and his culture is just an insignificant factor that doesn't really mold his worldview or give him a sense of solidarity with a significant proportion of other South Africans.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to that one of my favorite Ayn Rand quotes, which is, you can ignore reality, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And in terms of culture, like you said, I mean, you can speak to myself or yourself about certain principles, but
Right.
as much as I hate using this term, you cannot ignore that you and I inherently, despite our friendship and things we agree on, have different lived experiences, and
Right.
we slightly perceive the world differently through those cultural lenses.
Right. And I think that the best way to express that is the fact that every culture has differences in terms of what values or what just things they view as important, what they prioritize. You and, for example, your Tswana culture and my Afrikaner culture are not the same, but we do have a lot of overlap. But there are certain things, whether that be minor or significant, that we prioritize more than other things. Sometimes even unconsciously, certain values or just mannerisms or the way that you react in certain situations. And this is all the product of the way that you were raised in terms of your culture. These values and these mannerisms and this way of viewing the world has been hammered into you from that you were pretty much an infant.
Exactly. And people, like you said, people who wish to ignore that or wish to
Yeah.
shame or shut down discussion around that are going to suffer in terms
Right.
of the results they want. You're not going to get the results you want if you.
And
you,
again,
as you said,
maybe just so people don't misunderstand, this is a good thing, the thing that I'm describing. The fact that me, for
Yes.
example, me, an Afrikaner, and Odin, a Tswana person, disagree on certain values or don't prioritize certain things as much as the other is a good thing, because that actually creates genuine, and I also hate using this word, but genuine diversity in terms of a worldview and in terms of how you react to certain situations. And in the end, like you touched on earlier, the solution is not to wipe out those cultural differences and to create one homogenous, identityless mass. I think that's just going to lead to nihilism and an absolute crisis of identity. I think the better solution, but the harder and more difficult solution in the end, unfortunately, would be to find a synergy and to find a balance between the different cultures, where every culture can still preserve itself and take its destiny into its own hands without fearing that in 100 years their culture will not exist anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. That's perfect. And speaking of political parties and sort of things, I'm kind of locally, I'm kind of expended when it comes to political parties, and as you inspired me, I'm actually more about civil societies and things now. Like, honestly, political parties, I'm just kind of expended, and I just want to send a huge shout out to AfriForum for the absolute yeoman's work you guys are doing. It's really outstanding.
Hmm. No, thank you very much. 2019's been a very big year for AfriForum, and especially for me as well, starting to work there. Like I said, this year I got the opportunity to really peek behind the curtain. If there's anything sinister going on in the organization, I was going to be able to see it. And unfortunately, to my dismay, it was just a bunch of normal people.
Okay, so despite what Loser Lesufi would have you
Yeah.
believe, there isn't like some secret Machiavellian master scheme on Ernst Root's part to
Let me
say.
lay it down straight, dude. The Sufi thinks we're tapping, and what did he say? Like we're following him and his family, and we're hacking his bank accounts, dude. We can't even figure out who stole someone's sandwich in the office.
I just what I love about his whole like delusion there is just like, bro, do you really think that if they were doing anything like this, nobody else would notice but you? Like, do you? And also, what's the end game? Like, so they have this Machiavellian scheme to do what to you exactly?
Yeah.
To just put videos of you taking a pee on the internet? Is
I
that?
think if anything ever happened to Lesufi, AfriForum would be a prime suspect. Like, just in terms of the narrative that's going around. So I don't think it is in AfriForum's benefit to really do anything sinister or dubious. I think they would be a clear suspect in terms of the type of rhetoric surrounding the organization and the type of rhetoric coming from Lesufi himself.
Yeah. Poor AfriForum, man. You guys do, like I said, you guys do yeoman's work, and honestly, I think a lot of the sort of criticism or sort of flack that AfriForum gets, you get from a surprisingly large number of politicians and political parties and all that. Like, I was like, why do all these people, these institutions, these parties just have this obsession with shooting flack at AfriForum?
Well, let me make in closing. I think there's been a very fun show. I think final thought to really end it on is the fact my prediction for 2020. I think the 2020s are going to be an era of moving away from party politics and rather focusing on civil society and communities organizing themselves and achieving self-determination. I think political parties in South Africa are going to become much less relevant in the coming years. And we're going to see an exponential growth in the influence and change bringing potential of civil society organizations and non-government NGOs. And just regular communities getting together, creating night watches and getting off the grid in terms of power. Organizing all types of cultural preservation events.
Side note, we were able to braai last night despite the rain, so apparently we have better coal management skills.
And despite the load shedding.
Yeah, apparently we have better coal management systems than Eskom.
You can't stop the braai, dude.
You can't stop a braai, right?
So just maybe something else. Let me just see if I can find it. There was an Uber thread the past few days in terms of Eskom puns. So I started by asking the question, what happens, because we go to up until stage 8 potentially. And I asked what happens at stage 8. Does an Eskom employee come to your house and blow out your candles? And actually a lot of people, it started like a tiny mini meme in the reply section. So
Yeah.
Daniel Duplessis said at stage 9, Eskom euthanizes all the bright children.
Yikes.
I replied, at stage 10, they turn off the light you see after you die. Daniel Duplessis replied, at stage 11, they stir sugar into your Coke Light. And then I said, at stage 12, they remove Power by Kanye West from YouTube.
Ah, yes, I love that one.
James Dupree said, at stage 17, they drop the Aurora from Aurora Borealis. Odin says at stage 18 they replace every bulb in your home with a black hole.
It's true though.
Let me see. Here's Paul Marit says at stage 15 they come and abduct your lighty. And then he also says at stage 17 Simon and Garfunkel are forced to change their lyrics to "Hello Darkness, my only friend." Daniel Duplessis said at stage 18 everyone is delighted.
Delighted.
Herman Pretoria says, at 19, we pray for the heat death of the sun as it may provide a last gasp of illumination before the enclosing of eternal darkness. Donna
Okay.
Duplessis says, now it's in Afrikaans for the Afrikaans viewers or listeners. Teen fase 21 is kragwoorde streng verbode.
Oof.
Then let's see if there's. Oh, here's another great one. Tinas Ferreira says teen fase 25 mag Star Wars episode 4 net sabers gebruik. So in Star Wars you only
Wow.
allowed to use sabers. And then let's end with. Let's end with mine. By phase 26, restaurants are forbidden of having light meals on their menus. So this was, and there's a lot more. Those are just the highlights. That was the Eskom puns Uber thread that you can go find on my Twitter. You're just gonna have to dig a little bit because the thread is a bit broken.
Yeah, I thought it was a wholesome, fun thing to jump in on, and yeah, I think that is a good thing to close out on. Unless you have any further thoughts.
Oh man, thanks for having me on. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I really enjoy these types of chats, and at least this time, hopefully, we don't have an echo. Last time that made a lot of people irate.
Yeah, guys, we sound checked this, so hopefully it should be good. So yeah, I guess for my part,
I'll add in some distortion just to troll them.
Just a grrr.
You're an agent of chaos.
Agent of chaos. Yeah, for my part, I think we're done as well. And I'm going to do the Wogan part now and say, you can find us at noscriptshow.com. Links to all your favorite podcasts sort of platforms are there. You can find us on places like Google Podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. And we have a Discord server at noscriptshow.com that you can join. And there's now a channel called Wotan Abuse because I was responsible for the lack of episodes. So apparently now that I'm being rightfully abused, so there's that. And I just say stay safe and enjoy your Saturdays, people.
Right, guys. Cheers. Have a good one, eh?
Cheers.